That's interesting.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming to our Every Semester Needs of One. Okay, so apart from these Every Semester Needs of One, the National Center for Development and Diversity, for Faculty Development and Diversity, has, for example, another webinar on developing a daily writing practice, overcome academic perfectionism, move from resistance to writing, align your time with your priorities, and one similar to this we will do in 2 months, where we will do a strategic planning. Not only today we're going to plan our semester, in a couple of months we're going to think about harder into like a 5-year plan. What do you want to do? Do you want to get tenure? Do you want to get full? Or do you want to finish up a wonderful career in your golden years as a great scholar? How do you plan for that? Then there's another one on master academic time management that should be is very good complement to this one. The art of saying no. Cultivate networks of mentors and sponsors, and we will be doing that next semester as well. Engage in healthy conflict and manage stress and rejection. All those webinars are new every year, but you can also access them from last year. So every year they create new webinars. So this is the core curriculum that we have access to for free if you enroll. So this is a great resource that we really want to start telling people about. So if you can tell others about this, please, because if we don't use it, we will lose it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how do we plan our semester. So the first thing that we are going to discuss is what are the problems with our semester? What is, the semester slam? How does it look like and how we can plan to avoid that? Then we will talk about what are the keys to a successful semester, and planning is one of them. And then we will go through 5 steps to creating your strategic plan that you have in your handouts. And then we will talk about how you move forward, because it's not only the plan, but it's also the accountability and how to put the plan in practice. So the challenges is that we as faculty and grad students have a lot of unstructured time. We are the ones who have to structure it. There's parts of our time that is structured too, though. So is teaching, is service with the meetings that they put in there. But for research, apart from our lab meetings or maybe meetings with your advisor, you don't have any structure to your time. So you are the one who has to implement that structure. Then there's a lot of varied and time-consuming commitments that we say yes to, hence the webinar for how to say no, that can impinge in our research time. And then the other thing that happens is that we have a tendency to prioritize what seems urgent, doesn't mean that it's urgent, unimportant tasks, things that are easier to do, faster to do, and things that other needs, I don't know, like just you wake up in the morning and you plug in your email, and then you start to see emails that are like requests and things that you have to do. All these things are first before your breakfast. So you tend not to prioritize your own well-being and your own needs, like health, relationships, and long-term success. So that's why what you're going to see in those handouts is that you actually have to have goals also for your personal life. Because one of the things about the center, the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, is that they want people to be balanced. It's not a center to get people to get tenure in 3 years and be superstars. It's a center to be people that are whole, okay? Then the other thing that is a problem is that we have a lack of clarity about how much time research and writing tasks actually take. So some people know more than others by experience, but we tend to underestimate how long it takes to do an introduction, how long it takes to do a literature review, how long it takes to get through the IRB form, okay? So one thing that you can start doing is for a couple of weeks, checking what are the times that take you to do things. So you start estimating better how long it takes to do things so you can plan better. Until you do that, whenever you think that something takes you an hour, multiply by 2 or 3, because it's what is going to take you. And then there's the last thing, that is that we live in a culture, and I teach organizational culture, so I love this part, where everybody works all the time, and everybody shows this impression that work is the most important thing, and that you have to be working all the time, and that a good grad student or a good scholar or a good faculty is that is working all the time, and that is responsive on email 24/7, and that, you know, make things happen magically when it's not true. Because all this culture, what it's doing is creating that idea that our well-being and our full selves don't matter. What matters is our identity as a scholar. And that's kind of related to what we were talking about today at the cafe meeting about imposter syndrome. A lot of people have imposter syndrome because they don't see how they can do everything that other people do while also being able to have a personal life, for example. Okay, so the keys to this successful semester. We're going to start this semester, and we will continue, and we can use this technique of planning for the whole year, are to know what you need as a human being and to know what you need to be accomplished as a research and writer. But those two goals have to come together. They cannot be first a writer and then a human being. You're a human being, you need to sleep. If you don't sleep, you don't think. If you don't think, you don't figure out solutions to your research problems, okay? Create a realistic plan to meet all of your needs, personal and work, research, writing needs, and also build or connect with a type of support and accountability that will sustain and motivate you through the ups and downs of the semester. Why do you think that people pay for a personal trainer around $60 a session? Accountability. You're paying for accountability. You're not paying to be able to learn how to do the exercises. You know how to do them. I have had many personal trainers. I know how to do a deadlift. I still don't go by myself to do a deadlift in the gym. Now, with work classes that you have to sign up for because of the pandemic, now you have a little bit of accountability built in there, right? So the same thing with writing. We have, or research, we have to figure out where's the accountability. My accountability for my research, for example, comes from my students. And I tell my students in Spanish, que no llora no mama, right? Whoever doesn't cry, they don't get the book. So for babies, right? So it's the same thing. I tell my students, if you don't schedule meetings with me, I'm not going to be thinking about scheduling meetings with you. I have 17 PhD students. So you are the one who has to keep me accountable to your research. And if I assume that my research and your research are like our research, then that's my way of keeping accountability. But collaborators, for example, can keep you accountable, like being able to have good collaborators for your research that can keep you on track. Committing to deadlines for conferences, committing to deadlines for special issues, that also provides you accountability, okay? And then support. Get a mentor. If you're a tenured faculty member, try to get a mentor within the faculty, within your department, that can help you navigate what the faculty are going to be expecting for you in terms of tenure. But also try to get a mentor from outside the department, so you get an external perspective as well. Or just talk to the chair of your department. They're the ones who really know what's going on, right? So these are different things that we can do. Okay, so today we're going to do the planning process, and we're going to be using Post-its and markers, and we can use all the whiteboards here because that's what we're doing here. Or you can use a handout, all the fashioned way. So we're going to first identify the goals. Then we're going to map the steps of getting to those goals. And then we will take those steps and we will put them in our calendar. It's as simple as that. It's just that we never have time to do it. And that's why we have committed 1 hour today to do that, okay? So it requires knowing what, how, and when. We have a hard stop at 12 because we're going to transition to talk to our new friend who now can practice as a medical doctor. ChatGPT just passed the exam. And all this is thanks to Bob. He's the one who has been sending us email all during all the break about what do we do with this. So that's going to be part of our, I guess, work goals. How do we deal with this, right? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is, in the first page of your handout is there, but you can also do it using Post-its. I'm going to give you an overview, and then we will get you to do however you want to do it, okay? We will write our research writing goals, and the reason why we're not doing the teaching or the service goals is because those have accountability and structured time built in. So you can put them in your calendar, all those tasks, but those are already there. So what we need is to put extra things in our calendar for the things that are not accounted for later. So that's why we're doing research writing goals. And the other thing that is not in your calendar is your personal goals. There never are. So I want you to think about those. The goals, think about them as being SMART goals, okay? And you know what SMART goals are those that are specific, they're measurable, that they're attainable, not attractive. I don't know why, but in the webinar, they say attractive, and I'm like, no, the A is like, what the heck? And realistic, I guess that is because realistic and attainable, I kind of think that. But so attractive is something that you really want to do. Are you motivated to do that? Because if there's no intrinsic motivation, you're going to need a lot of chocolate to get there. And then time frame. There has to be a time specificity about when that goal is going to be finished by, and that's why it is important to plan. For example, a typical personal goal is improve my fitness level, but that's not SMART, right? What is SMART is to say, for example, walk at least 10,000 steps per day, Monday to Friday, from today until the last day of the term, or hire a personal trainer. Then find the money. That's another goal. Or start like doing a menu every single Sunday with healthy options and batch cooking for the whole week, right? Like there's a lot of different ways that you can get into your fitness level. So once we have the goal, and this is a very original one, submit manuscript. It will need submit manuscript, for example, by the end of the semester, you're working on it. You need to kind of map out the steps to submit manuscript, because we're not going to put in the calendar submit manuscript until April. We're going to put in there what we need to do that. So for example, in order to submit the manuscript, we need to do 4 things, right? Draft your lead review, draft the methods and results, draft the discussion, and select a journal, right? For example, for the project of selecting a journal, you need to do a couple of things. You need to research for possible journal outlets, you need to ask colleagues for advice, and you also need to generate a list of special issue journals that are relevant to the topic. Remember that accountability, for example. And in order to do that, you have to make a coffee date with Shamini, you have to email Bob, you have to read the editor things for each journal. You have to download and skim recent abstracts from 3 top choice journal outlets. All these are little tasks that will lead you to this project, right? Then there's another project, draft discussion, right? So then it's like, you probably will need to draft first your literature review instead of the discussion. So then, because the discussion is a mirror of your literature review, discussing your findings. So start with this, and then go here. And the methods and results is kind of like maybe the easiest stuff. So it's kind of like, go through do the analysis, do the tables, right? Like all these things are the little things. So in your handout, you're going to see that you have a space to put your goal and as many boxes as you need, and you can go farther. And this is the reason why I think that this space is perfect, because we can use Post-its to do the goals. We can put them in our boards. And in the boards, then you can write steps or use more Post-its and move them around. And then once you're done, you can take a picture, or you can start putting things in your calendar based on what you have on your boards. Because once you have that, then you have your calendar, and you can have your calendar in your computer, You can use a calendar that is in the handout. You can create a new artistic calendar with colors where you would put your time instead of this is a summer one. So imagine in there you have a spring. So January, February, March, April, and May each week. And here, what I want you to put is the projects, not the tasks, right? You just need to look at the task to see how long it takes. Because, for example, a draft literature review is going to take you 2 weeks. I think that this is already optimistic, but maybe. But then also add your personal tasks in there, right? So you know what's going on. And some people also in the calendar accounts for what they already have in the calendar. Like, they will look at, I'm grading that week. So there's no way I can do the draft review and grade it, but I could maybe like put some music, a glass of wine, and do some data analysis, right? So you can kind of like, that's how.
The wine before the data notes.
Huh?
The wine before the data notes.
Oh, yes, that's for sure. I don't know what ethics think about that, or integrity. So we will do that in your calendar of choice. Or we probably won't be able to get there today, but you will leave with at least a picture of something that looks more like what we were talking before, like this for each goal. Okay? And then once you finish this, the things that we need to do are to find the support and accountability that you need. So you need that personal trainer, okay? So for example, you can do the right on-site groups. I don't know if there's many on campus, but there's nothing. You can start one. We have one in my lab, for example, and we meet at Lucky's, I think, this semester, Friday mornings, and we just write. Online writing groups, there's the Women of Organizational Behavior Facebook group. They have online writing groups. And this has evolved into a huge writing retreat in Malibu in February that I'm super excited to go. And it's not for the writing. Then there's accountability groups too, or agraphia groups where you don't write, but you have like, let's talk in 2 weeks about what we have been writing and what are the problems that we had. You can have a writing coach. You can have a writing buddy. You don't need to do a group. My students in my lab are using the writing buddy all the time, and they do it on Zoom. They don't even have to be in person. And then there's a faculty success program by the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, that where you pay for that, but you have all of that implemented for a year. So if you know of any untenured faculty that would benefit from it, I would actually suggest to them to do it and to ask their dean to pay for it. And then you just have to work the plan. So finish your strategic plan, post it in the monthly writing challenge section of the national of the center, for example. If you want to do it there, you can post it in your lab, you can share it with your advisor, you can share it with your chair, you can share it with a colleague, but make it public. Once you make it public, you start being accountable. When I was writing my dissertation, back then there was blogs or Facebook or anything like that. There was a thing called Photoblog. So I had like a team of 4 or 5 accountability dissertation writers, and I had to take a picture of how much I have written every single day and put it at night and explain why and how. So that really was super helpful, because then they will, say, hey, yeah, this is great, or Gloria, what happened today? You were in the chat all the time, like they would give me some feedback. Again, contact a mentor this week to schedule a meeting once you have that strategic plan to figure out if that lines up with the rest of things. Like, for example, if you contact your chair of the department or someone that you have to respond to, this meeting can help them understand where are you going and what are you planning to do. And they can tell you, well, that's realistic or not, or actually this big thing is coming that I was going to ask you for doing in terms of service. Maybe that's not that realistic because you're going to be doing this other thing. If you don't have a mentor, that's a problem to resolve that you have to have ASAP, and check out the Cultivating Your Network webinar that has that. For grad students, don't think that your advisor is always your mentor. I would say find another one, because especially in some areas, advisors tend to have a lot of students. You need someone that really is like very focused on what you're doing more than your advisor. No, but just somebody else, like sometimes you need an extra. Consciously decide what you want to share with your mentor. Do you want to share your goals, your monthly overview, your detailed plan? Do you want to share your personal goals with them or not? Do you want to share it with them that you're a person or not? It's going to depend on who your mentor is. And then determine beforehand what you need advice and feedback on. Okay, so I think I can do this, but I'm not sure. How can we do this? So there's another webinar, Aligning Your Time with Your Priorities, that actually teaches you a 30-minute strategy for implementing your plan each week. So I would recommend that you watch these as well. So we're going to be using this resource a lot. It's just such a wealth of knowledge and strategies and skills, really developing as a faculty in any stage. And strategic planning is about skills, learning how to do things in that way. Some people we have learning through trial and error and many years of trying to figure out what works for us and what doesn't work. For example, I learned things in this webinar when I was preparing it that I didn't know. So there's always a way to do that. So I would say that before we even do this, if you are not part of the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, in which they changed the name to something easier. This is the website. Thank God the website is easier. facultydiversity.org. Join. You select your institution. It's Claremont Graduate University, and you will be able to get in there. Okay. So now we have half an hour to get going with our goals. So the first thing I want you to do is to spend like around 7 minutes doing your goals. And you're going to write a lot of goals, and it's okay. Because once you have all your goals, the writing and research and the personal goals, we will put it there. And then you will decide which ones you're going to pick for the semester, because you're going to have too many. And maybe some of them you will move them to the rest of the year. Okay? So don't worry, write as many as you need. You have Post-its, so you can write each, and then you can put them there, and you can do it on the page. And I'm going to put a timer for 7 minutes and get you going with that. Okay. Nice. Well, and that. You can also, I just realized that you can also use the table if you want to reorganize things instead of having to go to the boards. But if you like to see big things and write boards, that you can do too. So now you should have a couple of personal ones and a couple of, I have series of research ones, but I'm going to have to prioritize a little bit. When you wrote the goals, you may have put some time bound or not. Now that you're going to start writing or creating these, map out the steps. I want you to go to the project level and maybe the to-do task depends on your level of how well you know that it takes you to do things. You can do it as well. So think about either doing with one everything or doing like only the project level and putting next to it kind of like an estimate how it takes you to do a lit review, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of, I feel like there's a lot of like for the projects like a journal. I feel like it's just a little bit too much in this case, right? But it depends on how far you want to go. Maybe you want to do the exercise with one, right? And kind of figure out already, really like this is a lot of steps. But what we're going to put then in our planning is going to be the project. So let's take another 7 minutes to do this mapping. Okay, 7 minutes. Now we have 12 minutes before we get our chat GPT to think about how we export this to our calendars. And if you need to finalize something that you were doing in the middle of the task, just do. But what I want is to spend the last, these last 10 minutes, getting you to kind of think about, okay, so now I'm going to put it in the book, on the books. You can use, again, the handout where you have some space to do it, and the handout actually has these marks that you need. And of course, when you're doing that, when you realize that when you were doing the projects, you realize that some of the goals span the semester. So consider if you actually want to, well, it's actually a clean, like you're gonna start whenever you want, because you have week 1, week 2. So you're gonna start with February, right? Because today is 23rd. You can continue doing this until September, for example, or until December. When you start looking at the projects and how long it takes, you can then now reorganize this in a way that makes more sense. Think about, where do you have accountability or not? Like, I have a book chapter that I have to deliver by September. That's going to take more of my time right now than something that is like a wishful thinking of writing this theoretical piece about X, Y, Z that doesn't have a deadline, right? So start with the things that already have a little bit of building accountability, and then from there, that's one way of doing it. Or another way of doing it is to think about, that attractiveness of the goal, something that you're like, I really want to do this. I want to spend time doing this. So that's another way of prioritizing what goes in there, okay? And then take pictures of everything that you have done before you leave. So you're sure that you have all these and you can recreate it. You can take the Post-its with you or whatever you have been using and continue working on it. This was an hour that you gave yourself to the planning, but in order to continue, this makes sense to continue. Okay, and I will tell you when it's 10, and then I will going to start recording now, and then we will start recording again when we do the chat GPT talk. Before I start recording, any insights that you want for prosperity? For posterity? I just created a new word that is prosperity and posterity. Prosperity.
Well, it seems impossibly optimistic to do something like this. So at first you go, it can't be done. But actually, when you write it down, it's actually quite useful. So I'm surprised.
Yeah, right? Because you feel
So it's an encouragement to those who are watching the recording.
it feels like a chore, right? Like a chore, as something that is like, oh, I don't want to do it. I just want to go with the flow. But once you start sitting, I created a project that was email-genic. That is one of my collaborators. And I'm like, okay, what is that email? And the email is like, figure out deadlines, identify who's writing that, create draft, planning the resources, and mail the draft with the planning, right? Like, it's not email-genic. It's not 5 minutes. It's all this work before that. So, okay.
That was really helpful to add the personal goals in, because like you said, that's normally not something that's thought of. It's something you react to, but adding it in, then you can kind of see as an overview, like, okay, what are some things you can do that will work in tandem for both things?
Exactly. Or for example, when now you're going to put back things in the calendar. So my personal goals, there's two. That one is being able to eat more in the middle of the day than late at night. But in order to do that, I have to go to the gym in the morning, and I want to go to the gym. So now I'm thinking, okay, so now when I'm putting things on the calendar, I have to leave my mornings kind of free to be able to go to the gym. It doesn't, and that is in my calendar that I'm going to the gym. It's not something that I can move because I have a meeting or something like that. So that actually helps you too with the timing of when to use the things, which is the day that you're going to use for writing, for example, if you're using a day. The experts from National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, they say don't use a day. It's not about having blocks of writing, it's about having like a consistent writing practice. So maybe have 60 minutes at the beginning of the day, 60 minutes at the end. But if you have, for example, I have learned that I try to keep my Fridays open for writing, but by Friday I'm so exhausted that the one thing that I don't want to do is to sit down and write. So now I have decided that I'm going to move my writing day to Wednesdays, that is in the middle of the week. I'm inspired by everything that is going on around me. I'm having meetings with students, so I get like really excited. And by Friday, I can take meetings because I'm tired, but I can just, talk my way through. But these are things that you learn yourself, right? About yourself and how you work. So keep track of those too during the semester, what works, what doesn't work, and keep a note for your next semester planning, or start planning also your next semester knowing that. Okay, I'll let you, anything else? Any other insights? I love to hear my voice on Zoom, that's why I'm doing it.
No, I agree with Jonathan, the blending of the personal. So I do have a personal plan. I work on that separately. The blending is really good.
Yeah, it helps you make it realistic and real. Okay, now I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you. Thank you for coming.